Thanks again for visiting my blog. For this video post, I'll be discussing the topics covered in Chapter 2 of Levine and Dean's Generation on a Tightrope. This chapter focused on academics, or how the millennial generation views the academic experience. Chapter comes out with the claim that according to the longitudinal study, this generation of students actually takes a very pragmatic or career-oriented approach to their studies, which I thought was probably against what most people would expect in some of the stereotypes associated with this generation. Now, I think a lot of that probably has to do with the economy. Students are starting to see college more as an essential step towards getting a better job and moving up the social ladder and increasing their salary potential. A lot more students working part-time jobs along with their college experience just to be able to afford college. The demands financially aren't allowing as many full-time residential students to persist at the university. And although I was a little surprised by the fact that the book admitted to the claim that students take a very professional approach to their studies, this did describe my undergraduate experience. Going to the University of Louisville, I graduated early in my studies. Looking back at it now, I kind of wish I would have maybe taken more time and enjoyed myself more while I was there. I had some credits coming into college, and took kind of heavier loads than I necessarily had to. Just having that professional or pragmatic oriented mindset going through college. The book said that students tend to eschew the frivolous reasons that one might go to college, as in only 17% in the study said that they went to college to have fun for a few years before getting a full-time job. Only 15% said they did it to get away from home, and only 6% said they went to college to look for a spouse. Barring maybe the latter, finding a spouse, I think having fun and getting away from home, although these were not rated very high as reasons for going to college by this generation of students in the study, I think those are pretty important topics to be experienced and learned during college. Getting away from home, developing independence, having fun. I think that is a very real idea in college, is to have fun. You know, they always say college is the funnest time of your life. Not necessarily the mindset I took while I was an undergrad, but looking back at it now, I realize that there were some of the best times, and I wish I would have maybe tried to take more advantage and kind of slow down and realize that it is the last step before you get into the real world. So I thought those were pretty interesting statistics early in Chapter 2. In addition to the overall professional approach students are taking to their coursework in the current generation, there were more statistics to support this claim. 83% of students in the study said that they'd rather be in college than doing anything else. 80% are interested in their courses, and over 75% believe that their courses were relevant to the real-world experiences they would soon encounter. So students in the survey seemed very pleased with the college experience, which again was a little counter to what I anticipated. They said they had rich relationships with faculty members, more so than students in past studies. I think it'd be interesting to kind of figure out why these results may be. Trying to think on my own, I can't really pinpoint any exact reasons or changes socially, economically, that would make students develop more strong relationships with faculty. But nonetheless, despite their approval and satisfaction with college in general, there is still the claim that 4-year and 2-year degrees are no longer relevant. It's taking students many more than 4 years to obtain their degree, if ever. Only a fourth of students starting at the community college get their degree within 4 years. Less than half of all students who start off at a 4-year institution get a degree in 4 years. and the best percentage was those who attend a private institution at 65% getting their degree in 4 years. And this was, I believe, just directly proportional to the time spent on a campus and not being distracted by other life obligations. Students at private institutions are often a little bit more financially stable, more likely to be residential full-time students who can focus directly on their schoolwork, and thus it makes sense that they would persist and graduate in a timely fashion. Next, the chapter talks about the need of students to have remedial coursework done as soon as they enter college. The need for remedial education is higher than it's been in previous studies. I think this either is owed to one of two factors or a mixture of both. First of all, the K through 12 system may be to blame, as I've mentioned in some previous blog posts. A lot of the deficiencies and basic skills that students are lacking coming to college are probably owed to the disparities in the K through 12 systems. Some students are well prepared for college, and others don't receive an equivalent education coming through the K through 12 system. So that needs to be an area of focus moving forward and trying to retain students. Also, the increased access to education, which has been looked at as a positive goal to attain for many states, might be decreasing the overall persistence and graduation rates. The more students you let into college, there's going to be more that probably aren't necessarily as prepared for the coursework, and thus not as many percentage-wise who go on to obtain that degree in 4 years. I thought it was very interesting that students as a whole, 89% actually, describe themselves in the study as being intellectuals. They believe that they deserved better grades than they actually received. This all in spite of the fact that overall grades have been inflating. There is this phenomenon of grade inflation where students are receiving passing grades for doing minimal work, maybe a flaw in the teaching design in higher education, but nonetheless, students feel that they still deserve grades better than they are receiving. And it mentioned in the chapter that student affairs professionals are not surprised by this any longer. The sense of entitlement that students come in with, which is associated with the millennial generation, and this feeling of that they deserve certain. They're always used to being successful. They've never had to deal with any struggles growing up, been pampered to. This sense of entitlement was harped upon. And then finally, to close out the chapter, they return to the idea of digital natives, meaning millennials, are being taught by digital immigrants. They're saying there's this disparity between faculty and students as far as technology is concerned. It gave a description of some students who had positive experiences with faculty members who had used PowerPoint, others who not necessarily used it to the best of their abilities. I had experience like this as an undergraduate, a teacher who would kind of, as the book describes, throw the PowerPoints on the slide, go through step by step, and just read off of the slides. Now, my question was how much of that was intentional? It was a pretty... it was a class that was skippable in my eyes because you knew what exactly was going to be said. But it was an entry-level course. I think maybe that was by design. The teacher was trying to make it a little bit easier to follow for students. And to how much success that promoted with students, I'm not sure of the average grade in the class, but I wonder how much of that is intentional. But as the growing number of students who claim that they don't know what plagiarism is, that was also in the chapter, I don't know if I agree with that. I think students are pretty well aware of what plagiarism is. The problem is probably more so that they think they can get away with it. One of the deans of students in the chapter was quoted and said that students it has to be spelled out in the syllabus what they should and shouldn't do as far as using technology in the classroom. They don't know how to act like adults should act. again, some of that is true. I think a lot of students are just disrespectful as far as using technology in the classroom and using them for inappropriate things, just distracting not only themselves but other students. But at the same time, there needs to be a compromise. I think faculty do need to realize that they're dealing with what the book calls digital natives, and that technology it's a reality. It's going to be intertwined in every aspect of the academic life, and a medium needs to be reached by both parties. So a pretty straightforward chapter 2 about academics, the idea of technology very big, and the surprising statistics were the main thing I took away, that the very professional approach students are taking to college nowadays, not exactly what I was expecting to see, but it does make sense considering the economic times that we are facing.